Today we're going to be discussing controversial topics on politics, religion, pop culture, and 420 news. Our panel includes D. the lady sharecropper business manager, Pax, assistant business manager, and D, social media director of the Lady Sharecropper Hydroponic Garden Supply. The Sumerians, the first documented civilization on this planet. Who were they?
Authors like Zecharia Sitchin have gone to the far ends of the earth looking for clues, painstakingly piecing together enough fragmentary evidence to build a new theory of human evolution.
A basic conclusion of my writings has been that those who gave mankind civilization were visitors to Earth from another planet. If I say extraterrestrials, it's a dirty word, but that's what they were. This is called a
Sitchin is one of the few people on Earth able to read 6,000-year-old Sumerian texts. These writings, according to Sitchin, contain unmistakable clues to ancient intergalactic space travel.
And in order to come and go between them, their planet and our planet, they needed a space facility. The space facility was in a place in Mesopotamia, in today's Iraq. The mission control center was at a place called Nippur, and the actual spaceport was in a place called Sipar, which can be translated as Bird City. Many of them were depicted as birdmen with wings.
According to some experts, we can find very detailed information on UFOs and aliens in the old Sumerian culture, now considered to be the cradle of our civilization. The people then had extraordinary astronomical knowledge. Zecharia Sitchin.
If somebody says, where did you get the idea? I say, I read the Sumerian tablets, and that's what they say. They said that our solar system is made up of 12 members. And this is stated in the Sumerian text over and over and over again, not one time. And they say there is the sun, which is in the center, not like the Greeks or others thought that the earth is in the center. The sun, there's the moon, which they gave reasons why they considered it a member by its own, and 10, not 9, but 10 planets. Therefore, I'm very happy that when today astronomers look for this planet, they call it Planet X. They mean maybe the unknown planet, but it's also the 10th planet. They called it Nibiru, which means planet of the crossing, and the ancient symbol was the cross, not from Christian times, but from 6,000 years ago. And they say that this planet, the 12th member of our solar system, has a very large orbit of 3,600 years, and every 3,600 years it comes between Mars and Jupiter close to us. And it is then, they said, that people that look like us, not with little horns or green, people that look like us started to come between their planet and Earth about 450,000 years ago. Why do they look like us? We look like them. Because if you know the Bible, which is based on the Sumerian tales, at some point they engaged in genetic engineering and mixed their genes with the genes of Homo erectus. We can use various scientific terms, but let's say with early hominids, to bring about Homo sapiens, us.
The Maya and Incas of South America believed a race of giants existed on Earth before the Great Flood. So did many other ancient civilizations. Some took them for gods, others left likenesses of them in stone or wrote about them in their histories. As long as 6,000 years ago, another remarkable civilization evolved. Its people were the Sumerians, who had an extraordinarily advanced culture.
Their list of first just almost sounds like a whole list of our whole society. They had the first bicameral Congress, they had the first writing, they had the first school systems, and you just go on and on and on. So you have to ask, well, where did all this come from? And I think that you need to turn to the ancient Sumerians themselves and listen very carefully to what they have to say, because what they have to say, not just in one place, but over and over and over again, is that they were taught civilization by these beings that came from the heavens to the earth.
Question. Did other visitors from other planets, other solar systems, give the ancient Sumerians knowledge to begin civilization on this planet? What say you, D-Lee?
The ancient Sumerians, they have like text that's been around since before even the Bible. So who's even to say like that you can't disprove it, because those are texts that have been here before we even could decipher languages. Also, if we were visited by, there's been times in human civilization where we've had like technology booms where we've gone straight from having fire as our light source to us having telephones and different electricity and everything like that. And if somebody came down and visited us, then who's to say that they didn't pass on knowledge that would advance our human race for the better?
I don't disagree with those clips about the Sumerians. I actually believe that the Sumerians were contacted by, call it what you want, a god. They probably called them gods. That's probably what they thought they were. Call them the alien, call them the extraterrestrial, call them whatever you want to call them. Call them angels. Whatever they were, I'm sure they did really visit them. And I don't think the things they taught them, I'm sure they taught them knowledge, and what the Sumerians did with that knowledge, the individual people did with that knowledge, is what led to our modern day stuff. Some people did good with that knowledge, I'm sure some people did bad. It's just gonna always be that way. There's not everyone's always gonna do good. So it might have been a good thing and a bad thing to introduce certain things to the Sumerians, but I still give thanks for that, because we've continued to be granted with knowledge. Just like, I have the knowledge to grow. It wasn't given to me by my mom. That was given to me by my God, and I feel like they, certain people in the Sumerian civilization might have had the privilege to really get close to those gods. I know there's more to it than what we're taught in class. That's definitely some civilization we should be taught more in depth about. That was the start, from what we know.
The Anunnakis came down and taught the Sumerians how to build a civilization, how to build basically their whole way of life. I would have to agree with that based on how would they have learned anything, how would they know anything if somebody didn't teach them? You know what I mean? They're not just gonna be born one day and know everything there is to know. Somebody's gonna have to teach them. Somebody's gonna have to feed them until they step up and learn everything on their own.
GMO. Genetically modified organisms. Let's take a look at what the mainstream media and the world has to say about GMO.
My friends, the information that you are about to witness from all of my years of research is the most important. It's been hidden in plain view the entire time. This is the ultimate secret, and it's about to be exposed. I have hundreds of government documents, textbooks, white papers, where for over 80 years, the elite of the Western world have talked about adulterating food and water to sicken and sterilize the population for the purpose of eugenics. It's all covered in the book Eco Science, written by the White House science czar John P. Holdren, where they talk about a planetary police state to carry out the forced sterilization. They also talk about covert systems in the water and food to sterilize the population. Now, this was written decades ago, before he was White House science czar. Now, suddenly, the stuff in this book is all over the news. They're selling it to the public as if it's a good thing. You see here before you what an average person would buy when they went shopping at the store. Not everything here is bad for you, but much of it has compounds and artificial chemicals that have been added that are extremely toxic and bad for your health. And they have known this the entire time, and they have approved them for use. Let's start with aspartame. You cannot go to the grocery store now and buy any type of even regular sugar gum that hasn't had aspartame added to it. In the 1970s, Searle tried to get it approved, and they couldn't. It took them 3 separate times because in their own studies with monkeys, large portions of them that were fed it died and contracted cancer. Now we have mainstream news articles, and the EU has done a major study finding lower birth weights, early birth, and yes, miscarriages from women that drink aspartame-laden soft drinks like Coke Zero. What is aspartame? It is the fecal matter of the E. coli bacteria. They took it and genetically engineered it. They can feed it toxic waste, and then it defecates aspartame. And it has so many bad health effects, it's just unspeakable. This is being done by design. It's also very, very addictive. But let's just go ahead and move away from aspartame and talk about McDonald's and chicken McNuggets. Now, I remember a decade ago or so reading health advisories claiming that a form of plastic that's used in silly putty, basically a type of silicone, was in the chicken McNuggets, but also in many other TV dinners and other foods. It is illegal in every other nation in the world to add these chemicals to the food, but it's not in the United States. The big secret is all of this was done by design by the FDA. Look at all the drugs they've approved, and then it comes out later that they knowingly approve them when these drugs are causing heart attacks and cancer. In the Nuremberg trials, it came out that the Nazis were adding sodium fluoride to the water supply in the labor camps and death camps to make the population more docile and controllable. There had been hundreds of university studies before Hitler even came to power. This is a form of forced medication. They admit that 1 part per million of sodium fluoride more than doubles the chance of bone cancer in boys and men. As the public became educated in the last few decades, the government and industry's response was to not just put it in water, but to start adding it to thousands of products like children's water that's mixed with their formula or with their cereal. They started adding as much as 900 parts per million in things like powdered eggs. It causes reductions in IQ. It increases sterility or lack of fertility, and it's being added to so many of the daily staples that we consume. We'll get back to food additives in a moment. But first, I wanted to look at genetically modified organisms. Did you know for many years the American people have been eating cloned beef and pork, and now they're expanding out into other forms of meat? Let's look at salmon first. Major university studies conclusively have proven that the type of genetically modified salmon that is actually a cross species, they've mixed other animal genes in with it, that when this fish is introduced with wild natural salmon, within 40 generations, all of the natural salmon are extinct. And the FDA approved this. And they're going to allow it to be released into the wild that isn't even a salmon. It is a cross-species chimera. It is a mixture like something out of the island of Dr. Moreau, something out of a nightmare. More than 85% of the corn now consumed in the United States, and it's also starting to trend that way in Europe and Canada, is genetically engineered. It grows its own pesticide within the corn kernels so that insects won't eat it. If the insects can't eat this and live, what do you think is going to happen when lab rats or humans eat it? We have literally hundreds of studies showing that not just Monsanto's, but other major GMO companies' corn, and that's the majority of corn we're now eating today in the United States, has been linked to organ failure in lab animals. The studies also show massive increases in sterility in rats and guinea pigs that are fed not just GMO corn, but GMO cotton seeds. Studies in India, Germany, and the United States have conclusively shown that when they feed the cotton seeds left over from the cotton crop from these genetically modified varieties, that the cows are having miscarriages, they are having low birth weights, or in many cases, they're simply dying. And what is in most processed foods? Genetically modified cottonseed oil. Major studies are also showing that genetically engineered crops are killing honeybees and monarch butterflies. But they don't stop there. Now they claim they're coming out with a genetically engineered mosquito that's malaria-proof that they're going to release into the open biosphere. The very genetic code of the planet is being butchered in a hostile corporate takeover. Many years ago, an executive from Monsanto was quoted in National Geographic as saying that that is their program, that they want to basically have their crops and their organisms take over the entire biosphere of this planet. And the major genetic engineer companies have focused mainly on 8 major food crops. Now they're expanding out into hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other plants, literally changing the genetic code of the planet. This is a genetic dictatorship. This is genetic vandalism. And that's why the Rockefellers, the United Nations, and others have built these giant armored seed vaults all over the world, not just at the Arctic Circle. And they admit they're doing it in case all of this gets out of hand, that they'll have a type of Noah's Ark. So all these fake environmental groups, they never complain about this. They never talk about true environmental degradation. They want to put a tax on carbon dioxide that humans exhale, that plants respirate from and carry out photosynthesis with, as a way to shut down industrial society and control every facet of our lives. That's the big secret. This is a population reduction program.
Question. How do you feel about eating genetically modified food? D-Lee.
Genetically modified organisms in my food. Well, most people, I mean, we all grew up off of it. Everybody grew up off of it. Most people did. Like, some people eat organic or vegan, whatever the case may be. But
you gotta pay for that shit.
Yeah, you do gotta pay for it. But I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say because I eat it every day still, even though I don't necessarily think it's like the most healthiest thing. I think that it's better for your body to eat organic foods and like just more natural foods just in general. Less processed foods, just, you know, you just get more in touch with nature, how it's supposed to be. But I eat it every day still regardless, even though I know the facts and I know that it's not so good for me. It's just a process. I'm gonna try in the future, you know, to wean myself off it a little bit. But I mean, I feel pretty neutral about it. I mean, it's a preference. If you want to eat that genetically modified food, more power to you, I guess. But me myself, I would prefer to eat organic food, which is what I'm gonna try to.
Well, what if you can't afford to eat the organic food though? Because organic, let's just face it, organic is more expensive than the genetically modified.
Exactly. Like my homie Pax just said, you're going to have to grow it. There's nothing that's going to be cheaper than growing, because everything's happened outdoors. People have been growing since we've been alive, since Sumerians. So that's the best way to do it. If you want to eat organic, if you want to be healthy, and you want to control what you consume, then the best way is to produce what you consume.
If I go in the grocery store, if I go to the dairy section, predominantly all of that is genetically modified. What am I supposed to do when 75 to 80% of the food in the grocery stores that I go to, that you go to?
I feel the same way about eating GMOs, you know. It goes the same way with smoking my weed. Like, I'm all against this. I'm all against Monsanto, the seed company who's all involved with this shit. I'm all involved with this stuff. I'm against them. I had the luxury during my, probably from the age of 15 till I was 18 of eating the 7% of the U.S., you know, out of the whole 100% of the meat we got in the U.S., there's 7% of it that is not genetically modified, that is not got all these steroids in it, and that is from, grass-fed farms where they do massage their cows and feed them hops and stuff like that. My pops was a butcher for a place where we used to get that meat, and the transition from eating stuff from Lucky or Costco, when we transitioned from eating just the meat from where he worked at, oh man, my body just detoxed and didn't feel good for like the first week, but after, that's all you can eat. Because anything else, like you go to McDonald's, you'll get sick. And I mean, I don't know, I'm pretty sure the government did that to us, and they're starting to do it to us with our weed, and they're going to do it more once it's legal.
Genetically modified foods. Genetically modified foods. If I'm on a fixed income, how do I afford that? How do I afford non-genetically modified food, which is, as you already heard, more expensive than the regular genetically modified food? Why? Because it's been genetically modified to resist what? Bacteria, disease, so they can produce as much as they want. As opposed to organic grown foods, fruits and vegetables, which are more susceptible to disease and pesticides, and you might not get the yield that you want in comparison to the yield from the genetically modified seeds.
Man, I don't even know what to say about that. We pretty much, kids that were born in the 90s pretty much all grew up on genetically modified foods. So we probably don't really know the difference to it. Because I know for sure my parents didn't go organic shopping when I was growing up. On the other half, I don't like it. I wish all of our food wasn't genetically modified. I wish it was more natural, more healthy for us. I mean, why do they put all these chemicals in there? They say to make it last longer, to preserve it, this and that, but they know that chemicals that they're putting in there are not good for our body and our consumption. But they don't really care. I think it's all a part of population control, honestly.
Human cloning. Possible or not possible?
All right, the third question for today. What is your opinion of human cloning? I don't know that we've ever really spoken directly about our views on human cloning, and I was thinking about this in preparation for today's show. I don't know that my position on human cloning is particularly fixed right now. Have you taken, Lewis, a strong position on human cloning?
I don't really. I mean, I'm fascinated by it. I don't really care if it happens. I think there is a lot to gain by doing it, by researching it, by I don't know. It just seems like an interesting and important step.
Yeah, I'm not against it in principle. And I recognize that if you were to clone someone, 10 years, 20 years later, clone a 10 or 20 or 30-year-old or something like that, it's not going to be the same person. They are going to have such a different experience growing up, especially given the advancement in technology and medicine and changes to society and culture. They're going to be a very different person in spite of the fact that their physical appearance will be very, very similar. So I don't, the idea that you're going to have this army of people that are the same, I guess if you were to create multiple clones of the same person that all were to be born at the same time, it's conceivable that that would happen. And you can kind of think of these sci-fi dystopian scenarios of 100 clones of the same person being born at the same time and raised in the exact same way. But I don't think that that's the obvious eventual path for human cloning if it is to ever develop. So I'm not against it in principle, but I've not taken a particularly fixed position.
Question. Do you think that we, as human beings, were cloned by another civilization outside this planet? What say you, D-Lee?
Well, as far as humans being cloned from extraterrestrial life, I wouldn't go as far to say that. I can definitely see how knowledge could have been passed on from one race or one species from another. But as far as being cloned directly from their genetics, I just couldn't say.
How is it that it's so far-fetched or so hard to believe that if we know how to genetically engineer things through cloning, through DNA, how is it that it's so hard to believe that another civilization outside this world can't do the same thing, has done the same thing? Pax, what say you?
See, my beliefs on the other civilizations out there is kind of what plays into all this, is that I only feel there's only one other thing out there besides us, and that is our greater species. And I believe they're doing the work of the Creator, and I don't necessarily think I feel like the concept of cloning a plant is a God-given gift. Now the concept of cloning a human and an animal, that's a human gift trying to play God. That's humans trying to, that's blasphemy. Things weren't meant to be recreated by you. They're meant to be created by God, and that's it. I mean, getting something in the root is one thing, that's giving life. But to genetically create something, alter somebody's genes in a lab, treat something as a specimen, I feel like any civilization, no matter if it's on Earth or outside of Earth, wherever they do that at, is not a civilization that's going to go too far, because they're doing wrong with the knowledge they were gifted, and God don't like that. So I mean, He'll allow it for the meantime. He'll allow you to do what you got to do, but it's going to be swept from your feet just as fast. So I mean, if you're out there cloning stuff, humans and animals, and doing all this crazy experiments on living things, you will meet yours in the end. And there's one Creator. You're not Him, or you're not the Creator. So don't try to be the Creator.
So to create life is one thing. To end life is another. But to alter life through genetic engineering, that's another. So, is genetic engineering playing God? say, D?
To give a life is one thing, to end a life is another, but to modify something, man, that's something else. That depends on what you're modifying, honestly. I mean, say you want to clone a plant, you know, maybe that's okay, per se, but going to modify or cloning humans or cloning animals, I don't think that's right. I mean, the tests that you have to go through and put animals through or the person through or anything isn't right. And I think they are trying to play the creator role when they really shouldn't be. They have no purpose trying to clone or alter someone's life. Given a life, we should live that life to the fullest without any altering.
It's necessarily just wrong either to alter a plant. Like you said, you know, taking a clone off a plant is one thing, but even forget GMO foods. Let's say a plant's color is naturally green or a rose that's naturally red. To genetically change that color to be white, you're taking the chlorophyll and the chloroplast and you're changing that. You're doing something, you know, genetically to that species of plant, whatever it is. It's the same way. You can't make a person who's black white and a white person black. We were born with these genetics for a reason. To change that is a sin. I mean, it's just not right to be able to scientifically completely change the look of a plant. Next thing they're doing it to humans. We're going to not be able to recognize certain humans because you can completely alter their DNA. Like, I mean, I'd imagine it's by far they're doing way more than what you know, we have an idea of what people are doing right now. Like, science is so advanced at this point in human civilization that who knows what's going on.
Everybody has like a purpose on Earth, and you can't appoint a purpose to a person. You know,
They'll have no soul.
yeah, they wouldn't be a person. It wouldn't be a human being. It'd be an experiment, and I don't believe that that's right. Like, simple as that. Like, I don't know. It's just. Yeah, everybody has a purpose. Like, you have a set plan on here on Earth for you, and there's no human on Earth here that can give you that purpose, give you that goal.
Let me tell you something. Anybody or anything out there that is altering life wrong. You know why? Because you think that you are the creator, and you're not.
And people trying to impersonate the creator, just like he said, can't nobody take a life, give a life, or alter a life but the creator. You could think you're doing something. Hey, time is near. Count it down. It's over.
See, it's through the grace of God. And when I say God, I'm talking about the creator. You know, because everybody got their own perception about what God is. The creator, the founder, the architect, the builder. I mean, all that is what I just said, God.